What's going on, everybody? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. How is everybody doing today? Oh man, it is like, I don't know why. It feels like it's been forever since I've seen or talked to anybody. And I have no idea why. Maybe it's because I decided to get all crazy and change things up around here. And I think this is technically my first stream with that new setup. So, okay. Also, I have to admit to everybody here, I'm a little nervous today. And that is simply because I did make changes. And anytime you make changes to your system, whether it be a new camera or a new piece of hardware or even new software, or even you just unplugged everything like I did and decided to completely flip-flop your studio 90 degrees, it is a little nerve-wracking because sometimes you break things or settings change. And it's just one of those things that can be a little crazy. So it looks like everybody can hear me, which is fantastic. That was my number one thing that I was nervous about because I don't know if you guys have heard of the company Beacon. They're new on the live stream market, if you will. And I did get the mixer, the audio mixer. And I'm still learning it. I'm still kind of getting used to it and all the things. So I'm just excited that you guys can hear me. So seriously, I was like, okay, let's do this. I did some tests. You just never know when you're live. You just never know. So hello, everybody. Hello, beautiful people. You guys are ready to rock and roll in these comments. I absolutely love it. So this is our Ask StreamYard show. I'm your host, Melanie Diane Howe, and we do this show every week at 11 a.m. There is a slight chance we might do it at a different time next week because I will be traveling next Wednesday, and I would love to still come to you guys next week and do some fun Ask StreamYard stuff. So today we're going to be talking about whether or not you should be using a script in your live streams. This question was posted in our Facebook group, which, by the way, if you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, make sure you head on over there. It's an awesome community where everybody can support each other and help each other and ask questions and get really the things they need to help level up their live videos. So that's what it's all about. Definitely make sure all you got to do is search StreamYard Community in Facebook, and it will pop right up for you, answer the questions, and let you in. And a lot of people here in our wonderful comments here are part of that community. So if you enjoy these shows, if you enjoy that kind of camaraderie that happens, definitely head on over to that Facebook group and join it. It's a great place to be. But like I said, this question was posted in our Facebook group a while back, and it's a great topic. It's a great question. I teased that I would be covering this topic a few weeks ago, and many of you were very excited about it. And that is, in general, should you use a script in your show, and when should you and when should you not, or whatever. So we're going to kind of take a deep dive on that today. And that's really what I like to do with these shows is I like to take questions and pick questions that we can kind of go deep with it, right? So not just a basic question, not something I can answer in 5 minutes and be done, but things that kind of also involve strategy and, best practices really is the best way to put it. So this was a great topic. I loved it. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it today for sure. And I would love to hear your thoughts as well. And if you have any questions about it, then all you need to do is put a Q in front of your comment and you can ask that question. Keep it related to today's topic if possible, because that's what we want to do. Today we're talking about using scripts, whether you should or shouldn't use scripts or notes or whatever in your live stream. So if you have a feature request, we have a place for you. Go over to our website, streamyard.com/contact. And you can fill out the form there. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you need help with. And if you need support, you can obviously contact our support team. Or, as I mentioned, go over to our Facebook group and post your question in our Facebook group for sure. So that's definitely where you can get all of the help that you need. So let me check in on everybody in the comments. It looks like people are definitely noticed looks like everyone noticed the studio change, which is interesting. So certainly definitely not sure if I love it yet. There's a few things I like. There's a few things I don't, but I was ready for a change. And I think that that's always good to do. So Abigail Estrada says, studio change. Yes. I think it's just good to change things up for me personally. That's what I like to do. I'm one of those people also that likes to rearrange furniture about every 6 months, if I can. I don't know if that's you, but that's just how I like to do things. So everybody, thank you so much. Joanne Banco, she says, you look great. Fantastic. I just am excited everything's working right now. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever done that before, but literally, why do people not like stairs? Because they're always up to something. That's pretty cute. That's pretty funny. Literally, anytime you make a change, like I said, if you unplug things and replug things, and maybe because you moved your computer around or anything like that, it's always good to run some tests because I don't know why these things can get a little quirky, right? A cable might not be plugged in correctly, or maybe you put in a different port and maybe you put it in the wrong port. That certainly can happen. So you always just got to run some tests. And especially if you're trying anything with new software like I am, I'm not technically using the software today, but it's still involved. That's all I'm going to say. But it's pretty cool. I'll probably do some showing off of that for sure. When we get a chance. So is that a busted finger? Actually, the busted finger is so much better. I actually went to the gym this morning and did not wear this. I'm wearing it now because I tend to kind of get a little fast and a little energetic, and I don't want to bump it. So, but yes, the finger is healing, and it is absolutely a broken finger, unfortunately. So, okay, we're going to jump in because this is going to be fantastic. So, perfect. I see a couple questions coming in here. Like I said, if you do have a question, then absolutely put a Q in front of it so that I can find that question, and I will grab it and answer it today. So the creative lady, I rearranged furniture so much I messed up my rotator cuff. Oh my gosh, that is awful. You got to be careful when you're rearranging furniture. Everybody send the creative lady some love. Is it hurt now, or did you hurt it a long time ago? My goodness. Hopefully you'll get better there soon if it's hurt now. So, okay. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about using a script in your live stream. So this was a question that was posted in our Facebook community, and really, I'll be honest with you, we're going to have a conversation today. There's really no major tips or tricks to this. This is all going to come down to an opinion as well as your own needs, your own styles, right? So here's the deal. Do I think you should use a script in your live streams? Honestly, I think that there's a place for scripts sometimes. And then for the most part, I don't think you should use a script. So when you're doing a recorded video, A lot of people like to use a teleprompter. They have something very specific that they want to say. Because it's not live, they can sort of like write it out, practice it, and record it. So recorded videos it's very common that people use scripts, right? Now they'll use a teleprompter and they'll read it on teleprompter, or maybe they have it, they've got their camera strategically placed right next to a monitor in a way that they can actually look at that script and still look pretty close to the camera. And that's really where it gets a little tricky, is if you are going to use a script, then you're going to run into the challenge of reading your script and not looking into the camera when that happens. Now, with live video, it is more than okay to look away from your lens. As we all know, looking into your camera lens is the equivalent of looking into the eyes of your audience. If you look away, like when I'm looking down at your comments and taking care of a troll over on the tube very quickly, honestly, what happens is I'm looking at the comments now, so I'm not looking at you. But when it comes to live videos, you're used to that. The audience is fairly used to that. When we watch the live television and we watch the news, those news anchors often are looking down. They have a little monitor that they're looking at, it's called a confidence monitor, so they can see what the viewers see, so they know when they're on screen or not. They also might be reading notes being sent to them from a producer, letting them know what's coming next, things like that. So, and they obviously have a teleprompter as well. Now their teleprompter is basically right over the lens of their camera, so they're able to read notes and still look in the eyes of, but often we see them look down, we see them look away. We'll even see them look down at their notes. That's what we expect. Nobody's expecting you to just stare into the eyes of the viewer the whole time. So first of all, if you are going to use a script or notes, know that you don't get stuck on just looking at the notes the whole time. You want to always remember to keep looking back at the camera. So it is great that if you are going to use a script for parts of your live streams, that you do try to memorize most of your script, because you don't want to completely be reliant on the script the whole time. That's one of the aspects of it all. So I certainly that's kind of one of the things that we wanted I wanted to start out with, right? And it's interesting. So James Grimsley is saying scripts never works out for me. I just hit record and go. Yeah. And honestly, I'm not much of a script person myself. In fact, all of my friends here at StreamYard, they know that, because I have done our virtual events the last 2 times. I've co-hosted with Dana Bentz, and there are scripts that are part of those events, because there's a lot to cover, there's a lot to say, and for the most part, I do follow the script, but I also go just slightly off script a little bit, right? And so for me to read word for word, it honestly, I can't bring the same amount of energy when I read a script. And so that was one of the other things I wanted to point out today, is that it's all going to come down to personal preference, style, as well as just your general needs. And so if you really do need a script, because there are some truly important things to say, like when we do those events, we have to make sure we talk about the sponsors. We need to make sure we give the proper shout outs. We need to read bios of our, speakers that we're presenting, that we're, introducing. So there are a lot of important details that, quite frankly, would be very difficult to memorize. And so a script is important. Now, a live event is different than a live stream, but similar, very similar, right? So I find that, so this is great. So Indiana Patriots for Convention of States says, I use an outline of each segment. There you go. And honestly, outlines are fantastic. Outlines, bullet points to make sure you don't forget certain things. And so I definitely think that that an outline is the way to go. Yolanda says, I believe instead of a script, Can called it rundown. Every stream must be considered a TV show. Oh, interesting. That's interesting. I like that. Okay, let me see here. I saw something else I wanted to grab. I love everyone is sending love to each other. I love it when you guys do that. It's so fantastic. I know that the creative lady, we want to make sure that she gets healed up for sure. Okay, cool. I'm just pinning some questions that I'm going to grab here in a second. Caleb Express TV says scripts tend to work for us here unless it's an interview. Now, interviews, yeah, it's pretty difficult to have a script in an interview because you're asking questions and your guest is going to be, answering the question, and you don't want them to have a scripted question. Now, I will say this. I do think the interviews go better when you have a little preparation with your guest ahead of time, meaning let them know what questions you're going to be asking, maybe even develop that outline together. I recently was on a podcast that was one of my favorite interviews I've done. And it was because it was totally like there was a pre-meeting and we basically came up with the overall content together, but he has a particular, outline that he uses for all of his podcast interviews. And what was great is that when we went to do the recording, he followed the plan. And it was like, I knew what to expect. I was able to prepare so that when I showed up, I knew what questions he was going to ask me. I knew how the flow was going to go, but nothing needed to be scripted. I had some notes together so that I wouldn't forget the key points I wanted to make, but nothing was scripted. But I did know what questions he was going to ask. And we mutually knew how the flow of that conversation was going to go. So I do think that interviews are hard to script. However, I do think that you can obviously prepare ahead of time and let your guests know what questions you're going to be asking. You will find that you will probably have a much more natural flow. And this is great. Hugh Anthony Riley says, ad-libbing feels more organic at times too. Yes. So I do agree that when it comes to live videos, people aren't really expecting it to be scripted. Now, what's the caveat to that? What's the exception to that? I do believe that there are certain parts of your live streams that it's completely okay to script. I think that, again, it depends on the topic. It depends on your content. Most of my streams are very conversational. Not really a lot of need for scripts when it comes to that. However, if I had maybe in the beginning of my stream, I had a particular call to action, I had a particular announcement I needed to make, and I wanted to make sure I covered all my bases, I might write a short script for that one little segment. Or if I am going to have a guest on screen, I might write a little script for myself so that I can read their bio appropriately. Now, there are some ways. We talked about looking into the camera, right? We talked about that. Well, you could create a nice overlay that you can pull up when you're going to be introducing your guest. Pull that overlay up, and then you don't have to worry about looking into the camera lens because your audience is looking at a graphic, and you can be reading a piece of paper, down in your lap or whatever, or something that you have on screen. So there are certainly ways where you can introduce that script and not have to worry about not looking into the camera. And that's one of the tricks you can do is to display an overlay. So let's talk a little bit about, again, intros, maybe as you're, you want to, have something very specific, lots of detail that you need to point out. 100% one of those things that you can do. So, yeah. Okay. Use the comment section just like you. Awesome show. Hello, Mark. How are you? Yeah, I will be honest with you. I have a couple of tricks that I'm going to share with you about how I stay on track. And a lot of you in the comments are totally like using that. You have the exact same tips and I absolutely love it. Right. So this is an interesting comment. Nabo says unprofessional if you don't use scripts. I disagree. I think it comes down to the actual show itself. Right. In fact, it depends on what it is. There might be times when it's appropriate and it might need to be scripted for it to be the right kind of, content. My question or my challenge to some of that would be, should it be a live show? Right? Should it be a live show? And I think that live, there might be segments of your show that you need to script out. Maybe you're delivering education, you're delivering content, you're delivering news, whatever it might be. But as you engage with your audience, you can't script that part. You cannot script engaging with your audience. In live videos, live streams, need to have audience engagement. If you're not going to engage with your audience at all whatsoever, then you could consider doing a pre-recorded show instead, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you can't still live stream a show, live stream some content, put it out there, and it just be a live stream. But again, most people, as they show up to a live stream live, they are expecting engagement in some way, shape, or form. And so always understand that you might need some room for that, and you might need to have some areas for that. The rest of it can absolutely be scripted. But as I mentioned, if you're going to do the scripting and you need to script all the time, you might want to invest in something like a teleprompter or a setup that will allow you to always go back and keep looking at the camera. The last thing you want to do is be looking away the entire time reading a bunch of words. Now, the other thing is that scripting and reading scripts takes some practice. Okay. So, I mean, I'm sure all of you have had this happen where you've watched a show, you've seen a show, or you've watched the news, even, anything, and they are reading from a script, from a teleprompter, wherever, and it's flat and dry. Maybe you've listened to a podcast and you can absolutely tell that they are reading their podcast, and it just sounds like someone is reading something. So this is something that 100% you have to consider. So again, using a script is great, and it can give you some confidence because you have that, I don't want to call it a crutch, but you have that safety net, right? It's going to make you feel, okay, good, I'm not going to forget what I have to say. I have this script here. However, there is a talent in reading a script and not sounding like you're reading a script. And again, live video is meant to be raw and real and extremely authentic. And so be thoughtful of that. Maybe give it a practice, try it out, see how you feel about it, go back and watch it, see if you sound like a robot. You don't want to sound like a robot. And that is the one thing that I would steer you away from. If you aren't able to really overcome that, then I would try a different method. And that other method is, instead of using a script, use an outline or bullets. And many of you mentioned this earlier. For sure. And I loved it because it's totally what I recommend. So have your plan. Maybe write it out as if it was a script, and then read it and kind of practice it. But then for your actual live show, don't use a script, use an outline or bullets. And what you can do with that is, I literally have a friend, and she literally will use Post-it notes, and she tapes them to her monitor. So all the things that she's going to say, she tapes them to her monitor, and literally she'll go through everything. And as she kind of covers the topic, she'll literally just kind of reach over and just like pull it down. She really does that. And I've seen a lot of people do this when they do webinars and other things, is that's kind of that's their stuff. They will tape it up on screen or on the edge of their monitor. So you can do that. Now, the other thing you can do, which many of you have pointed out, is, and the creative lady says it right here, she stays on track by adding banners as talking points. I love this strategy. I 100% use this strategy myself. I totally do. What she's saying is you can literally take, okay, if you have 5 key points, 5 key bullets, then use the banners in StreamYard. Everyone can use banners. They are on every single plan. You just go to the banners tab and you create a banner. You can even create folders for your banners. So if you have particular shows and you want to keep track of them and, plan ahead, you can absolutely do that. So literally type in what your stuff is and pull it up on screen. Here's the other thing. You don't have to display it. If you want to just keep everything in StreamYard and be really organized, you can create banners even if you're not going to display them. I totally think that this is completely fine because you'll see that those banners are out to the right. That's a great place for notes, right? Now, the other thing you could do that I've also done sometimes is now there's a key you can also use the private chat inside StreamYard. So the private chat tab actually is a great place if you want to put notes or even links that you're going to be grabbing and maybe posting in the comments. The only thing you have to keep in mind is that you can't put that in there ahead of time, leave StreamYard, come back, it will be gone. So you have to put that stuff in right before you go live, or don't close out your StreamYard browser window. So the private chat is another great place for you to add these notes or this information so that you can have it kind of all in one place. But just keep in mind that the private chat isn't going to retain if you leave StreamYard. So there's a lot of tricks there. And here, Indiana Patriots for Convention of States says banners can be your outline, 100%. So I definitely know that a lot of you are using that, and that's awesome. So this is a nice bonus tip from Joanne Benko. So she says, learned that it's also important when necessary to ask them specifically how they pronounce their name, even if you think you know. And I think you're referring to your guests, and this is actually another great thing to add to your checklist when you're working with a guest is to, yes, make sure that you are going to correctly pronounce their name, because sometimes we make mistakes. In fact, Joanne Benko, or is it Joanne Bonko, right? People pronounce their names differently, and they may live in a different country and it might be just a different way, right? Okay, so yeah, here we go. BTV Productions. I do an outline to stay on track. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So outlines are great. I use outlines a lot. I will sometimes type my notes in a Google Doc Or I love to use Evernote. It's just an app that I've used for a really long time. I basically call it like a virtual trapper keeper. I like Google Docs, but I think Evernote, just everything's right there in one place. I don't get distracted by other things. And I just really love the way Evernote is designed. OneNote is another one that's very popular as well. But anyway, either way, I like to keep track of my outlines in something like that. And then I just pull it up and I look at it right before I go live. Might take the concept of what I'm talking about and write it on an index card, or as I mentioned, a Post-it note, and just have it right in front of me so that I don't forget any key points. And that is necessary for certain streams, and sometimes it's not. It just depends on what you're covering. And so again, this is a matter of opinion. So we're talking about whether you should use a script, right? That's what we're talking about. Should you use a script in your live streams? And as I said, it comes down to personal preference. It comes down to the information that you need to share. Sometimes a script might be necessary. But I also said that, and I reminded everybody that live streams are not necessarily supposed to just be you talking and that's it, and then no engagement. So some of your show might be able to be scripted, but some of it should be a little bit more conversational. Truly, that is the nature of live streams. That is why people tune into live streams. That is the style, the method of live streams. So if you just want to do something scripted, then you might want to keep it short and punchy and just do a pre-recorded video, right? Especially if you're kind of doing something on YouTube. So Mark is agreeing with me, says live streaming is about engagement and authenticity. Yes, it is, 100%. Okay, let's see. This is really good too. So using a script as a guide, don't read it 100%. Don't read 100% from it. Mike Hicks is saying, and honestly, that is kind of one of those things that I tend to do, as I mentioned. So if like for our StreamYard summits that we have quarterly, our next one will be coming up in April, we do put a script together. And that is because we have a lot of important things to say. But, the team knows that I'm probably not going to read it word for word. I'm going to use it as a guide. And that is exactly what Mike is saying here. And that is exactly what I do. Now, I will read that script. I will edit that script. I will even retype things and make it sound like the way I would phrase something. And when I go through that process, it actually is putting the information into my head. So I do think that there is a method of preparation that comes into play here. So the more prepared you are, the less you're going to need to read word for word a script, right? So I definitely think that that's kind of key. It's a lot of Post-it notes. Somebody in our Facebook group, Post-it notes. Why didn't I think of that? And then Soap School says, isn't that what Post-it notes are made for? I mean, you can use Post-it notes for whatever you want, but I mean, Post-it notes are they're perfect, right? They're perfect for that quick little thing you need to just post up and put it there. Yeah, so I definitely think that it's one of those things that it also, if you're going to use the script, you've got to practice it because you don't want to sound like a robot. And that is definitely one of the things I would want you to be careful about and steer away from, because that can happen a lot. This is another really great suggestion from Joanne. She says, I like using slides with my key points too. You can we talked about using banners, and we talked about using even the private chat to save your information, save your notes. I just talked about using a Google Doc or Evernote, having it up on screen with you so that you can always look at it as a guide, using Post-it notes, whatever you want to do. Another thing you can do is add a production element to your stream. And like Joanne's saying, either create overlays or create slides and use that as your guide. Now, you don't want to use slides with a lot of text. I see this a lot. It's a massive mistake that I see over and over and over. A lot of people are tuning into your live stream on this tiny little device in their hand. A lot of people are also not completely watching you on screen the whole time. They're listening to you. They're multitasking. They're on the treadmill. They're in the car. They're on a walk. They're cleaning. They're doing laundry. They're folding laundry, whatever it might be. They're getting ready in the morning. I don't know. But a lot of people will multitask. And so use those slides as a nice visual, but don't put your script in the slide, I guess is what I'm saying. So I just want to clarify here that you use them as a guide once again. So your slide, it's like, okay, next up. And then it's like, oh yeah, next I was going to talk about using banners for your guide, right? So I love this idea. Using overlays and using slides is another really great idea about how you can add a production element, but using those content pieces as your outline, right? Instead of you looking over at a piece of paper or whatever. So 100% definitely think that that's a really important thing to add. And I really love that Joanne added that for sure. Okay, so yeah, so this is an interesting comment as well when it comes to using the StreamYard Studio. So a lot of people have actually pointed this out, that they would like to be able to always have comments up, but also still be in the banners or in the brand area of StreamYard as well. Currently, the way it's laid out, it's everything. You kind of have to be on one tab or the other. But a lot of people have provided this feedback. So I definitely would suggest going over to StreamYard.com/contact, fill out that form, give them that feedback, because the more people ask for that feature, the more likely they are to entertain it. A trick to this, Joanne, that'll get you away is that you could open up StreamYard in another tab and go into that same stream. Just make sure your mic is muted and make sure that you have no sound coming out of your speakers. Everything's muted completely. Then if you do that, now you wouldn't be able to do that if you have a guest. That's the trick. You can actually have StreamYard up in two browsers, and in one browser you can have comments up, and in the other browser you can have your banners up. So you definitely can do that. That's the workaround for it right now. But that's definitely something that we've been asked a lot, right? Okay, so just checking in on the comments here. I'm going to get to a couple questions for sure. Oh, this is smart too. Yeah. You can also put them on your iPad. I've seen a lot of people do this. So Murray Montgomery, put the questions, put your outline, put your notes together, have it on iPad, and either have it right with you, or go ahead and just put it down right in front of or underneath your main monitor that you're using. I actually think that there's nothing wrong with having an iPad and just having it out and just using it. Especially if you're one of those streamers who is, further away. I'm pretty close to my camera. So, you don't see my desk, you don't see some of that, but a lot of people will stream and they are standing up or they are further back. And it's actually kind of cool. Have your iPad out as your little thing, just use it as your guide. Again, when we watch our news channels, our local news, oftentimes they will literally have a little iPad out or a little Microsoft Surface, any of those types of things. They'll just have it right there. They've got their pen in their hand. Who cares? Use what you need to make it happen, but don't be afraid to incorporate it as just part of what your view and what your scene looks like. So really great suggestion. I'm really glad that you said that for sure. So, okay, let me get to some questions because I saw some questions coming in and I wanted to make sure that we're all cooperating as well in the comments. Yeah, so here you go. Doug from SmackDown Outdoors says, I'm working on having a tablet or laptop right next to my camera so I can constantly see the topics I want to talk to my guests about. Having it right there might help the flow and keep it moving. Yeah, great suggestion. Another thing, if you have a multi-monitor setup, this is something that I have done. I've tried. I've certainly gone back and forth with it. If you have a multi-monitor, if you have multiple monitors, you can also take one monitor and make it vertical. And then you can actually have it go right next to your camera. And so then over to the right of your camera lens, you could have your notes. And then underneath it, you might have, your OBS or something, any other software that you have running. And then, the next monitor right here is maybe your StreamYard, studio. So there's definitely a number of ways that you can do it. You don't have to just have a whole different device up there. You might look into turning a monitor to the side. There are pros and cons with that setup for sure, but that's another great thing. Just getting something close. Having it as close to your camera is definitely the key. And often what I do as well is, I have two pretty big monitors. One is over here and one is over here. And literally, if I'm looking at my second monitor, I am looking over there, right? But I'm looking here. Now, I actually don't have StreamYard maximized on my monitor. So I have literally StreamYard pretty small and it's directly underneath my camera, because if I maximize StreamYard, or if I were to have my notes out to the right of my StreamYard studio, then I have to look all the way over here to see your comments. And that isn't as engaging as me looking right here, right? And so that's another key as well. So definitely, put it where you want it. For sure. Put it where it's going to work for you. But again, trying to stay as close as possible, to the camera lens. The creative lady That would be a great video, Mel, showing how to use multiple monitors. Okay, well, good. I will do that. Different setups. I can certainly cover different setups with multiple monitors and pros and cons to the different ways to do it. I'm just recently started sort of dabbling in that and thinking about adding a third monitor to my mix myself. I've had a few moments, just a few. Don't worry, nobody needs to get worried here. I've had a few moments of, I kind of miss the days when I kept it simple. Like I kind of miss the simplicity of one camera plugged in, one USB microphone plugged in, none of the fancy stuff, just basic and simple. I've had a few moments where I kind of miss that setup, but no, it's all good. I'm definitely going to probably add a third monitor because I can't hold myself. What it is, right? I did get a new webcam that I am going to be featuring on my own show tomorrow. It's that Ozbot 4K, the Ozbot Tiny 4K. It follows you. What? It follows you around. Like, how cool is that? Maybe if we have time, I'll show it to y'all as well, because sometimes I literally am like, sometimes I'm just like not sure if I'm overdoing it. Is there a case of monitor overkill? Could you overdo it? I do think you can overdo it. Right? Doug says the same thing. He's like, I'm too far down the rabbit hole though. Totally agree. Same, my friend. Same. Murray says basic is good. Yeah, I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with basic, right? Nothing wrong with basic. Okay, let me get to some questions that we had posted earlier. So Hugh said, should you write a full script or stick to bullet pointing interesting topics? So, this was, Hugh posted this early in the stream. And I definitely have, told you my thoughts on this. Here's the thing. It really is going to come down to your personal preference. Again, there might be some things that can be totally bullet points, but then there might be some things that are just really critical and really important that you truly just make sure you read all the way through. People's bios as you introduce guests. Maybe there might be a special announcement. There could be certain parts of your live stream that are scripted, like little intros to segments, but then the conversation is not scripted, right? Maybe the conversation at that point is bullet points. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So it just is going to come down to what you need to do. I will say this, and I did mention this, that if you script something out, a lot of times you can script something out, sit down. If you like to journal, if you like to write, and that's kind of your style, especially if you're maybe a blog post type of person. You used to have a blog and now you're getting into live streaming. You're probably used to writing out your thoughts, writing things out. There's actually a lot of beauty in writing out what you want to say and then putting it into bullets for your live stream. Because when you went through that practice of writing it out as if it were a script, you're almost like, you know what you're going to say. There's just something about that. The bullets are simply there to help you not forget certain key points and not forget what's coming up next. This is the same with, speakers who go up on stage and do presentations. They have a bit of a script that they've probably done, but then when they speak, they're not reading a script. They're speaking on stage, right? They maybe have memorized parts of it, but for the most part, they might have a few notes like on a note slide or something, but they're not typically scripted when they're on stage. It's very similar. You can use the exact same practice. So write it out, but then use bullets simply so that you don't forget, right? So Carl said, do you use basic outlines? So I like to use outlines to prepare for certain types of streams. A lot of my streams are more Q&A. So on my own channel, a lot of my streams are very Q&A focused. The streams on this channel, so the Ask StreamYard show that I do, sometimes I will outline the elements of the stream, because if it's something complicated, if it's something where I need to do some research to go look into how to do some things, I gotta sit down and think through it. Oh, that's probably going to be a good spot for a demonstration, so I want to make sure I do a tutorial at that point. I will actually plan out some of those shows like that with an outline. Then I have other types of shows that I do sometimes, which I call kind of like master classes. They're like a training. It's like an hour long, like training or a webinar style of, live stream. Those I definitely sit down and outline those out, because there's just there's more content. It's a different type of show. But for the Q&As, I don't typically outline those shows. I might have a couple of notes on an index card just so that I don't forget anything. But for the most part, the show is really driven by the audience and the engagement that I'm getting. But that's that style of show. So it kind of depends on the show topic. But yeah. So this is cool. I've seen more of this. I'm starting to see more of this. There is a product out there called Plexicam, and Let's Go So with Joanne Benko says, any experience with PlexiCam to get camera at eye level. So what this is a device that it's made of plexiglass. So it's plastic, it's clear. It essentially hangs on your monitor and your camera mounts to it. And so you can adjust where your webcam goes, but it literally is like, that way, if I wanted to look at the comments and read the comments, but feel like I'm looking into the camera, I can literally put the webcam like in the middle of my monitor. I have not used this product. I know some people that have used it. I personally do not think I would love having my camera in the middle of my monitor. I think I'd feel like I needed to I'd feel like it was in the way personally. But it certainly is an option. It's certainly something that you can look into because it will help you read something on screen, but be looking closer to that webcam, right? Like right now, my camera is 2 inches. The bottom of the lens of my camera is 2 inches above the top of my monitor. So, you guys are watching me look at the comments. You're watching me check, certain things. I'm looking around a little bit, but for the most part, my eyes are coming right back up to the camera and the lens. So if I was reading an outline, reading a script, that would look very different. I'd be looking down or away for most of that part. So the Plexi camera is certainly an option. It's certainly something to look into. For me personally, I probably would invest in a teleprompter before I would invest in a PlexiCam. So that's just me and my style, but also I'm using a pretty big, heavy, large camera versus a small webcam. If I was just using a small webcam, I'd probably look into that PlexiCam for sure. So that's just my own personal preference, my own personal opinion on that one. So checking out the comments. James is not a fan of the PlexiCam. James, I'd love to know why in the comments. That is really funny. He said saying no to the PlexiCam. Well, let us know. I mean, again, I don't have experience with it. I 100% have seen people use it. I've never seen anything that bothered me, but James maybe knows something we don't. So definitely would be interested to hear more from you on that one. So I'm looking at, Corinder is a fan of Google. So using Google, so Google Docs, certainly when it comes to that. You can also use like dictation. Seriously, you can actually use dictation. So one of the things is you can read what you want to say, like say it out loud, not read. You would say it out loud, and you can use there's a lot of dictation tools now that are pretty accurate, where it will literally type what you say. And so if you don't want to type it or write it, maybe you could try that as well. I'm just cracking up, to be honest with you, because of some of these comments. There you go. So James is actually saying he would get a teleprompter is better. So in his humble opinion, I totally agree. Are you using a script for this show on Scripts? Nope, I am definitely not. I will tell you, the only time I've ever used a script is when I read a bio from a guest. And as I mentioned, when I am the co-host of the StreamYard quarterly summits that we do, we have some scripts for parts of that show for sure. And I do read from the document there. But no, definitely not using a script today at all. This is how I feel. So James is saying a piece of plexiglass in your face would be highly distracting. You're already doing 1,000 things while trying to produce a show. That's how I feel. Now, again, I know that there are some people that use that plexiglass thing. It hangs on the front of their monitor and they use it and they love it. So it's just personal preference. So I personally don't think I would like it, but it's one of those things that it's just, again, personal preference. All ad lib. Very true. I am very, very ad lib all the way. Okay. Can you embed the script in the video, say classes? I do know there are some apps out there. There are actually some new apps coming out where you can, you're recording and you actually can be, I think they're on your phone though, where you are looking and you can be reading the script right on your phone and it's showing it, but it's not recording the script part. I don't know, it's like captions. You can write out your script and it will show it to you like captions for your view, but not for your audience. I have seen some ads for that. I've not seen it or tried it, but the Improv Queen, I'm okay with that title. I'm totally down with that title. 100%. Okay. So Murray says, I'm using one of my old EOS cameras. So that's a Canon camera as a webcam using the Canon webcam utility. Works great. That is what I used to use. I used to have a Canon M50, the original Canon M50, and I used the webcam utility app, and it was a huge step above using my old webcams. Okay, so Hugh has another question. So Hugh had lots of good questions today. With regards to intros, does it rely on the subject matter or can it be generic? So first of all, intros, your intros, a lot of people will have a standard intro for every one of their live shows. It's a common thing. I think this works if your show is what I call a show, not just a live stream that is a pop-up or, whatever. If you have a reoccurring show and it's the same show every week after week after week. For example, James Hicks has a couple of shows that are reoccurring. There's one where it's about sports, right? And so he has a reoccurring show. And because of that, he could absolutely use and does use a bit of a standard kind of video thing to kick things off, right? Now, when it comes to your intro, I think you can script it. I think you can pre-record it. I think there's a lot of ways you can do it. I don't like generic intros. Because I don't like generic intros. Let me back up. Let me try to think of how to phrase this so it's not confusing. Because it's one of those it depends situations. So if you're going to come on and you have an intro and it's the same thing every time, I would consider creating a little video, like a little sizzle reel, and keeping it really short and just let it be your intro. Not scripted, it's just edited, it's boom. Maybe you play a 30-second countdown and then you click on the video inside StreamYard and it plays your intro and then you're on and it's time to get going. At that point, you need to welcome your audience. You need to kick off your show. That should not be generic, in my opinion. But you can have a little bit of a little sizzle reel to just, hey, it's we could do that here if we wanted to. It could be welcome to the Ask StreamYard show where we answer your questions, blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And we could totally have a little video intro. We should probably do that. I would like that. Anybody want to volunteer to make that for me? But then I'm going to start the show. And because of this, the topic is different each week. My intro is not generic. I'm going to basically talk about anything that's going on, if we have any announcements, if there's anything for you guys to sign up for, if there's anything we want to tell you about, and then I'm going to talk about what the topic is. So for me, it's hard to have a generic kind of welcoming, but you could have a fairly generic sizzle reel welcome intro video if your show is reoccurring. Again, it's all going to depend on if it's reoccurring. So I do think it's possible. Again, I think it comes down to personal preference, much like so many things, right? Much like so many things. Let's see here. I'm checking in on you guys in the comments for sure. So, Anna's here. Hello, Anna. It's good to see you. JV's Hangout. 20-minute countdown should be banned. 20 minutes is a very long time. My countdown's the max 10 minutes, but I play music and dance during those countdowns. I'm engaging in my audience, right? Let's see. This is a really great point that the Third Coast Learning is making. This is a really, really great point. Another benefit to having a script is for captioning or creating a transcript for accessibility features. Yes, this is a very good point. And so what this person means is that, that is actually one of the big reasons why I can't just show up to our StreamYard summits and be like, all right, I'm just going to show up and talk about this, because we have people on screen doing sign language. So for our hearing impaired community, and they read the script ahead of time so that they kind of know what is going to be said. That just helps them. But we do go off script a little bit, but it is important. The script is also done, and we have the script done ahead of time so that they can read the script as well and kind of know okay, great, here's what we're going to be doing. And if they have any issues or questions, they can ask us. The other thing is that, yes, captions. So if you're ad lib all the time and it's, it's a lot of and well, yeah, a lot of that, then you're definitely going to affect the accessibility aspect of transcripts and things like that. So having a script, if the transcripts are really, really critical and important, then that script is going to benefit you and help those transcripts be better for sure. So, but you can edit, you can use great tools like Otter and Descript and others that are awesome tools. And then you can edit those transcripts. The transcript does not have to fully match what is said. It can be edited. However, the captions, of course, they should really match what's being said on stream. So did you know on stream, right? Yeah, there you go. As an ASL interpreter, very good point. We read to get context, so going off script isn't a big deal. Yeah, so you kind of have a general feel for it. And I never thought of that, of course. I never thought of that before, but our StreamYard team, and I was like, I hate scripts. They're like, yeah, but we kind of need them because, I was like, oh, okay. I get it. I think we have a lot of uhs and ummers out there. I am too. Come on. I am too. Getting better at it, but it's one of those things. Great question. So the Curse of Oak Island, how can I have a script if I don't know what my members will ask, but I love it? Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I think you were tuning in a little bit later, but you can't script everything in a live stream. Now you could, but there are going to be things that are going to go off plan. I don't know what you guys are going to ask, so I can't script my answering your questions. I have to be able to be live and here for that. So, you got to keep that in mind that, again, some things can be scripted, but some things just simply can't. Some elements of a live video can't and shouldn't be scripted. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to think about there for sure. All right, let me see. We were talking earlier about using an iPad for a place to have your script or a place to have your notes so that you can stay on track. Caleb Express TV says, would a cell phone work too? Of course the cell phone would work. It's going to be a lot smaller. So that would be your thing. But I mean, like I could have my notes up on my cell phone right here and just kind of have it. And so let's see, how high can I get it? Oh, wow. I can get it really high. Literally, I have my phone like right there. I mean, I'm looking at my phone right now. And there's me looking at the camera. There's me looking at the phone. See if I can get it even higher. There. Now it's in shot. So, I mean, you can get it pretty close. I mean, you could put your phone on a tripod and have it up there like that. The issue with phones and tablets is that you would want to make sure that you go into them and turn off the screensaver. So, as you all know, when you have a phone and you set your phone down after so many seconds, or even as you set it down, it goes black. And then you have to touch it and open it back up, enter your code, do Face ID, whatever, to turn it back on. So if you are going to use a tablet or a phone as a resource for your notes and your outlines, then there might be some settings you want to change in there. And then, of course, disable your notifications and make sure it's muted because it is going to be literally right in your stream with you. So Hugh says, a lot of people struggle with this, by the way. I suffer from anxiety and a bit of a stammer. So would scripting be good for me or just bullet pointing? So Hugh, I would try both. I would try doing both. This is what I run into. If I have a script or if I have a lot of notes, I can get lost in my notes personally. And so as I mentioned, what I recommend is write it out as if you were scripting it. But then when it's time to deliver the content, use a short outline or those bullet points. And if you know your content, then you know what you're going to say, right? I do the same thing. I sometimes will stammer, but usually when I stammer or I kind of, I don't know, hem and haw or whatever you want to call it, it's usually because I'm like navigating the studio, getting myself back to the comments, reading comments, making sure I didn't miss anything. And so at that point, I'll kind of sometimes be like, all right. And sometimes I'll be like, da 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 la la la. Let's see here, what we got. Like, I mean, I don't. Some people are really good at just like being like, all right, let me find the next question. Like that right there felt so hard for me. I don't know how that made you all feel. Probably like that felt like 9 minutes of silence, but it was literally like 3 seconds. It felt like 3 minutes full of silence for me. I hate that. That's how I am. I'm trying to get better about being okay with that because it's really not that awkward for your audience. But sometimes we feel rushed. We feel like, okay, I have to always be talking. You really don't. And so having that outline there as a guide is going to be a great thing for you because you're always going to be able to go back to it and feel comfortable and you're going to be good. The script, though, again, you can get lost. Just like I get lost in the comments sometimes. You can get lost in your script sometimes. So it's really going to come down to how the style that you want to try, the way you want to try it. Try maybe both and then just, try to find what feels best, right? Try to find what feels best. This is also a great suggestion. So if you have a local Toastmasters, Toastmasters is great when it comes to just speaking tips and getting rid of those ums, getting comfortable with the silence. A lot of the reasons why people say ums and is because of we don't like the silence. We're thinking, right? We're thinking about what we're going to say, and we're not comfortable with doing that in silence. Totally one of those people. Still working on the uhs and the ums myself. I'm being silent. All right, how do you guys feel about this silence right now? Oh. Oh, my goodness. That's your style. It works. Okay, camera. Let's do it. I saw a couple people ask this. A couple people asked what kind of camera I was using. Personally, I'm using a Sony ZV-E10. It's not a cheap camera. It's a great camera for vlogging and streaming. And then I am using a dummy battery. So this camera is plugged into the wall using that dummy battery. And I am using a Sigma 16 millimeter 1.4 f-stop lens. That is why you see the blurry background. That's why I'm able to have really good vivid color, because that lens is exceptional in low light situations, which allows me to keep the ISO down, which it's like at 250. What is it? Yeah, the ISO is at 250. It's very, very low. So I'm able to, but there's still good light and you're able to get the colors. So I love it. But it is a pricier setup. It's going into a Blackmagic A10 Mini, but you could use just a Camlink capture card. So that's what I'm using. Now, there's also webcams out there that are fantastic. I could probably show you this new webcam. It's not cheap though either. But yeah, so Gearhead School says, I have a Logitech StreamCam on an articulating arm. I can swing it down to a few inches below the top of my monitor when I'm live streaming. That's actually cool. So that's a really good idea. So a lot of us, when we use webcams, we literally mount it to the top of our monitor. But we were talking about the PlexiCam device earlier. That's a really good idea, is putting it on like this microphone that I have here. Oh, it's kind of hard. It will swivel out of the way. You could totally put like a webcam on that and move your webcam so that it was maybe in a more position that you wanted it to be, for sure. Let me see here. Okay, so Kamal Tech Vlog, good to see you here, by the way. Glad that you're here. Scripts tend to be overbearing for me. Natural flow is so much better. That's me as well. That's how I feel as well. Not everybody feels that way. Totally agree. That is definitely how I am, for sure. Corinder, I would suggest the C920. So that's a Logitech camera. C920 and OBS tiny camera, virtual camera, I believe might be what you're referring to. I no longer recommend the Logitech C920 unless someone is on a very tight budget. But honestly, if you're on a really, really, really tight budget, I would suggest you use your phone as your webcam. We have an entire stream about that we did on this show. We also have videos on our YouTube channel about it. The C920s are just, they were great when they came out. There was really nothing else superior to them, but I would definitely go with an Elgato Elgato face cam over that, or even the Logitech StreamCam. But the C920s are a pretty old model. They are really cheap though. That is definitely one of those things. They're really, really cheap. So if you need something cheap, and I still have my C920, it's in my drawer. Don't get rid of it if you have one, because they make great backup cameras. Charles, I saw that you asked this question earlier, and honestly, it's a really good question. And I don't have experience with teleprompters, but that is a great question. I would love for you, Charles, to post that in our Facebook group, because there's a lot of users in the Facebook community that are using that. So they're using teleprompters, and they can share their teleprompters and what they like about them. I know that there are differences in them. There's like the size, there's big teleprompters, there's small teleprompters, there's ones that use an iPad underneath them, there's ones that use an app on your computer. So like there are a lot of different features and options. I'm actually planning to get a teleprompter, so I need to look into that myself, but I would love for you to ask that question in our Facebook group, because you're going to get a lot of great feedback from people in the group. The bot cam. opinions. I don't know what you mean by the bot cam. Let me know what you mean by that. Maybe give me a little bit of clarity on that one. Maybe a little bit of clarity on that one would be helpful. Let's see. Oh, I've not heard of this one. So Hugh says I got a Sandstrom full HD webcam and it seems to work well. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So Tanya says I use mine any husband's phones. Yeah, so she's using a cell phone as a webcam as well. There you go. My phone and my husband's. There you go. I got your first one. I hate it when that happens. Don't you? Like you fat finger something. Let's see. Yeah, Parrot teleprompter. There's a bunch out there. Nano teleprompter is a mobile app that can also be used on a desktop. It's great. That is one thing I will say. I have used a oh, okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, I'll show it to you guys. The Ozbot cam. We will do that. I will show it off. Oops. So you can also download an app on a tablet that is a teleprompter app. So it's not a teleprompter, meaning it's not going to go over your camera lens or right above it. It's just an iPad. So you would need to mount your iPad somewhere up by but there are teleprompter apps where you literally, the trick to them is that it's the speed, right? So I've used the teleprompter app on my iPad before, and it's the speed. You start reading it and you're recording, and then you're like, oh crap, it's too slow. And then you're like waiting for the text to scroll faster. Then you got to go adjust it, and then you come back, and then it's like, oh, it's way too fast. Or you want to pause it. You typically can't do that on most teleprompter apps on tablets. Teleprompters, however, some of them come with the ability they'll come with like a little knob. They'll come with a little knob, and you literally can have it like underneath, like down below, and you can literally like pause the teleprompter, slow it down, speed it up. I will definitely be getting one of those things. The kind of teleprompter I get will definitely be one of those, right? For sure. Okay. Sty, hello, says, I only script my shows that have limited audience interaction. Otherwise, I do pure ad lib in my lives, and the audience seems to prefer it in that fashion. Exactly. That's totally, that's pretty much kind of what we talked about, what we mentioned. Okay, let me just show off my camera before we sign off for today. So I'm going to use the extra camera feature in StreamYard. This is a pro feature. So you have to have a pro account to do this. Let me pick the Ozbot camera. Okay, let me move it to a better spot. It's kind of a weird mount. It's like magnet. Oh my gosh, it just followed me. It's so cool. All right, so I'm going to add it to the stream. This is you guys aren't even ready for this. I don't even know if you're ready for how cool this is. Okay. You guys are not ready for this. Just hold on. Let me go full screen. All right. Are you guys ready for this? Here we go. How cool is that? And I can get out of my chair and it will still follow me. I'm attached, though, to a wire. Is that not the coolest thing ever? Here's another thing that's cool. So it will receive signals. So if I want it to stop following me, all I do is this, and now it's not going to follow me. But if I want it to start following me again, and it blinks, I see it blinks, so it tells me what it's doing. I'm going to show this thing off on my stream on my channel tomorrow. So if you guys want to come learn a little bit more about it, I'm going to share it tomorrow on my stream. This is really cool, especially for crafters who are doing things and they need to be hands-free, but they need to move around and do some stuff. Oh, there's so many cool things you can do with this. And as you can see, it's a great webcam. Like the color's great. It's a really good webcam. I'm very impressed with it. It's not cheap though. It is an expensive webcam. It's like $260, I think, or something. 250. I forget how much it was. It's not cheap at all. So, but it is cool. Now, Ozbot is the brand. This is the tiny 4K. They have another one that's cheaper that they came out with a while back. It's total crap. So don't buy that one. Yes, DJI as well. I've heard they have a good one as well. DJI is a really good brand, by the way. Okay, so the looking at your comments really quick. There was something else. And the other thing I can do is I can have it zoom in on me. I think I have to do this. Stop. So you can do that, and then I think I have to go like that. Hold on. I don't know how to get it to go back. I forget. Hold on. You do an L. I think I do this. And then get back. I don't know. I need to look that up. I don't have my thing. There's another signal I give it to make it go back. But so like if I was up out of my chair and I wanted it to zoom in on me, then I would make that signal. I don't know. It keeps changing. It's doing other things. So there it is. That's the Ozbot camera, right? So it's super fun. Okay, let me see here. Can you make it show the tabletop? Yeah, you would be able to. So it's kind of like on like a gimbal. Like it's hard to describe, but you could position it as a bird's eye view camera, and then you would freeze it. You wouldn't want it to move around, obviously, because it's using facial recognition to follow me around. It's the Ozbot 4K Tiny Cam. No, Ozbot Tiny 4K. Yeah, Ozbot Tiny 4K. But anyway, it's kind of fun, right? I think it zooms if you throw up an L with your hand. It does. I don't know how to get to zoom out. I forget how to get it to zoom out. I did it the other day, but anyway. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful for you all and that you all enjoyed talking about this today. We talked about using scripts and not using scripts in your streams. And it basically boils down to a lot of it's going to be personal preference, as well as the content type, as well as the type of show that you're trying to stream out. If you're having a very conversational show, which most live streams should be and are, then you're probably not going to use a lot of scripts. But you might use some outlines. And the ways you can use outlines or some bullet points is you can actually use the banners inside StreamYard. So go in, make the banners, take your 5 bullet points or whatever it is, put them in, make them into banners. You can also use overlays or even slides in the same manner. You can also put some notes together and put them into your private chat section of your StreamYard studio before you go live. You just have to make sure you don't exit StreamYard, because when you exit StreamYard or leave that stream studio, it will delete the private chat at that point. And so you would need to paste that in before you go live. You can also use a Google Doc or an Evernote app or OneNote app, have it on your screen with you or on an iPad or a laptop near you. Or you can just go old school and just write out some Post-it notes and paste them up on your monitor so that you can see your outline right there. I mean, there's really no way you can go wrong here, but the key is that you want to make sure that you keep the conversation conversational. Try not to sound like a robot if you are going to read a script for some of your segments of your show. And then, of course, always make sure that you're finding a way to get back to your camera lens, because when you're reading notes, looking around at your notes, looking around at your outline, you can get off track, but you'll have to remember and train yourself to go back to that camera lens. Even I myself, I've been streaming for years. There will be times where I will get myself off track and I'll stay in the comments and reading the comments. And even as I'm reading and talking to you, I will honestly, it happens sometimes, I will not be engaging or looking into the camera lens enough, at least for the type of show that I want to create, which I want you to feel like I'm looking into your eyes when I'm talking to you. So that is definitely something that might take a little bit of practice, might take a little bit of preparation. Now, I am a big fan of, if you want to feel prepared to create a run of show or a show flow, we actually have an awesome video about that over on our YouTube channel. Kirk Nugent did that video. It's a really, really good video about preparing for your shows and creating that outline, but also something that you might find helpful if you're feeling a little anxiety and you don't want to, you feel this need to have a script. Something that you might find is literally write out your content as if it is a script, as if you are writing out a script, and then read it over and over and read it out loud. Just read it out loud and kind of just practice that you're talking to your audience. But then when it comes time to go live, don't use the script. Just create some sort of outline, use these bullet points so that you stay on track with your content and don't forget anything. That is actually oftentimes going to be all that you need. And even if you don't read it or talk about it exactly the way you originally wrote it down, that's okay. Because also you want to be ready to be able to go off track a little bit, go off topic a little bit, take care of your audience, what their needs are in the middle of your show. And that's going to require a little bit of that spontaneity. And to be honest with you, when we're scripted, sometimes we get really uncomfortable when things can kind of get a little bit spontaneous, and it can really just even throw you off. And so getting used to not using a script, practicing that, getting used to it, and also embracing the fact that your audience is probably going to prefer that you not use a script, because it is live video. It's meant to be raw. It's meant to be in the moment. It's meant to be real and very authentic. And if they feel like you're reading a script, and if you sound like you're reading a script a little bit robotic, they're not going to feel that way, right? Now, again, there are some ways that you can absolutely, script certain parts, introductions to guests and things like that. That's completely fine. But definitely try to avoid scripting the whole show. That's a personal opinion of mine. You can absolutely do it your way. There's really no wrong way to go about this. The only thing you can do truly wrong is to forget about your live audience and not interact with them and not engage them. And if you're not going to do that, then I always say, why live stream? Maybe just do a pre-recorded anyway. So that's pretty much what I had to say for everybody today about this topic. If you have a topic that you want to use and be featured in the show, go over to our Facebook group, join it, make sure you're part of it, and use the hashtag Ask StreamYard. Use that hashtag, post a question. We had some questions about monitors. We had some questions about other things. Use it. This was one of the questions that was posted by a user in our Facebook community, and we thought it was a great idea, a great topic where we could kind of get a little involved with strategy, share some good tips, share some good insights. I love to find those questions where I can do that. I love to find questions where I can take that deep dive, also talk about strategy and best practices. That's what the show is all about. So definitely use that, ask your questions in there, use that hashtag. And if we grab it, we'll probably send you a DM. And if you're okay with it and we can feature you and your question, then we're going to send you a t-shirt, a free StreamYard t-shirt. So they're really great t-shirts, I will say. They're very soft. I love them. And that's how that works. So now we are here again next week. But I do not know if we're going to do it Wednesday, it won't be me doing the show. So I think we might do it on Tuesday instead. Still not totally confirmed, which is a really good reason why you should subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get notified when we do schedule it. Or, as I mentioned, make sure you join our Facebook community. You're going to get those notifications of when we schedule our live streams, including our town halls that are every Sunday night at 9 o'clock Eastern time with Gage and Dan. I always say Dage and Gan. I do that a lot. I got it right that time with Gage and Dan. That's another example of a show that we have every single week. And then we also have shows on Saturdays sometimes. We've got all kinds of things going on. So as I mentioned, not exactly sure when we'll be live next week, but usually we're live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So, all right, everybody, I am super appreciative of all of you. Very thankful for you guys being here today. Hopefully you learned some new things. And as I mentioned, go join our Facebook group, use each other in there, support each other, and just have a great day. Have a great week. Hopefully you're surviving the winter, if it's winter where you're watching from. And if not, just go do something great. Go outside and enjoy it. So I'll see you guys next time.